I heard the scream before I saw the splash. It ripped through the summer air, sharp and desperate, echoing from my backyard like a siren. I ran outside, heart pounding, and there she was, Karen, flailing in my pool, the same pool she'd trespassed into again and again. For a split second I froze, unable to believe what I was seeing, and then it hit me. She was in my house again. This wasn't the first time. This chaos had roots, deep ones, starting from what I thought was a small, harmless favor. When I moved into this neighborhood a few months ago, I wanted to make a good impression. Everyone seemed polite enough, though I quickly learned that the head of our homeowners association, Karen, was a force of her own. She smiled wide, talked loud, and always made sure you knew she was in charge. So when she stopped by one day, pretending to be friendly, I didn't think much of it. She told me her son was having a birthday party and that his biggest wish was to swim in a real pool. She said she'd been too busy to book one at the community center and wondered if she could use mine for just a few hours. She sounded genuine, maybe even desperate. And I was still the new guy trying to be neighborly. So I said yes. I told her I wouldn't be home that day, but I'd leave her a spare key and she could enjoy the pool. Just please, no damage, no mess. She smiled, promised she'd take care of everything, and I actually felt good about helping. Little did I know, I had just handed the neighborhood's biggest manipulator the keys to my own castle. When I returned that evening, I expected the usual aftermath of a kid's birthday, towels, balloons, maybe some spilled soda. But the backyard looked untouched. The deck was clean, no wet footprints, no noise, no signs of fun. The silence felt wrong. I checked my security footage, expecting to see happy kids splashing around. Instead, what I saw made my jaw drop. Karen was alone. Not a single child in sight. She'd set up a chair, poured herself a glass of wine, and lounged in my pool as if she were on vacation. I watched her swim slow laps, flip her hair, and take selfies like she was at her private resort. At first, I told myself maybe something came up. Maybe her son couldn't make it. Maybe she just didn't want to waste the day. I tried to believe that. But deep down, something about it itched at me. A few days later, when she didn't return my spare key, I went to ask for it. She opened her door with a coffee mug in hand, acting like she'd been expecting a servant, not a neighbor. When I politely asked for my keys, she gave a lazy smile and said, "Oh, I think I misplaced them during the party. Don't worry, I'll find them." Her tone was dismissive, almost mocking, like losing access to someone else's house was no big deal. I should have pressed harder, but I didn't want to start trouble. After all, she was the HOA president. You don't just start a war with the queen bee. So I forced a smile, said it was fine, and walked away. But my gut told me she was lying, and I was right. 2 days later, I checked the footage again. There she was, waltzing through my gate, sunglasses on, music playing, floating around the pool like she owned it. No kids, no party, just her. I remember gripping my phone so hard my knuckles went white. I called her immediately, demanded to know what she was doing, and she laughed. A cold, sharp laugh that cut through my ear. "You're imagining things," she said. "Maybe your camera glitched." The arrogance in her voice made my blood boil. That was the moment something inside me flipped. I stopped being the polite new neighbor and became the man she wasn't expecting, one who would fight back. I downloaded every clip, every screenshot, every timestamp. I saved everything. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I was going to outsmart her with evidence. But even I didn't expect how far she'd go. A few nights later, I walked into my living room and noticed something odd, wet footprints on my hallway rug. My heart sank. She wasn't just using my pool anymore. She had been inside my house. The realization made my skin crawl. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by my window watching the dark backyard, waiting for her to show up again. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask nicely anymore. I was going to catch her red-handed. Saturday morning, I set my plan in motion. I parked 2 streets away, turned off every light, and left my blinds slightly open to watch without being seen. I wanted her to think I wasn't home. The air was heavy and still, every sound sharp in the silence. Then I heard the metallic jingle of keys at the gate. She had them. She'd actually made a copy. Karen strolled into my backyard like she owned it, wearing sunglasses, carrying a big straw bag, humming to herself. She slipped off her sandals and dropped them beside the pool chair, set her drink down, and eased into the water. I watched in disbelief as she stretched out on my lounger, floating peacefully. The entitlement was unreal. She'd turned my home into her private resort. I hit record on my phone and dialed the police, keeping my voice calm but my pulse racing. Yes, she's here right now, trespassing. I have her on video. The dispatcher told me to stay on the line and not confront her. But as I watched her scrolling her phone, completely at ease in my pool, my anger built like a storm. A few minutes later, everything shifted. Karen tried to step off the float, lost her balance, and fell hard against the edge. There was a splash, followed by frantic splashing and gasps. For a moment, I thought it was another one of her acts. But then I saw the panic in her eyes. She was actually struggling. I ran outside, dove straight in, and grabbed her arm before she went under. She fought me in panic, pulling me down with her, but I managed to push her toward the steps and drag her out. Both of us were soaked and shaking. That's when I saw the red and blue lights flashing through the fence. The police had arrived. 2 officers rushed in as Karen sat up, coughing and pointing at me, shrieking, "He tried to drown me! He attacked me!" The officers froze, looking between us. I took a breath, kept my voice even, and said, "Check this." I showed them my phone's camera feed, Karen unlocking my gate, entering, lounging for hours, then slipping and falling by herself. The officers exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from suspicion to disbelief. One turned to her and said, "Ma'am, is this you?" She stammered, I was invited." But it was useless. The footage didn't lie. When they saw multiple clips of her doing this before, trespassing, swimming, drinking, they had enough. They read her rights and handcuffed her beside the pool. The neighbors peeked over fences, whispering as their self-proclaimed HOA queen was led away dripping wet, mascara streaked, pride shattered. I stood there, silent, exhausted but satisfied. The next week in court, she was found guilty of trespassing and giving false statements. She was fined $10,000 and sentenced to a year in county jail. I came home that night and stood by my quiet pool, the water calm under the fading sun. No noise, no intrusion, just peace. I realized something then: karma doesn't need permission. It finds people exactly where they think they're untouchable.